There is hope. The younger generation is at it. What I will do this evening is just take myself and you through a long trip, a process that I've been in since the mid-1980s. And of course, it all started from this city. That's when I started being called a poet. Anyway, first is my love song to Durban, eThekwini. There is an expanse of green and dust, hemmed in by cane and a stitchwork of hills. There, here, this expanse, spattered by waves, pummeled by sunblasts, stewing in sweat, yes liquid, yes waves, whose necks are thick set with corrugations. There, here, is this expanse that claims me, my hell. From here, from the hell's odors, Tomato Street, Guava Avenue, Molasses Valley, Steel Shavings Township, glue location, Masala Hill, melting and boiling, there is no stench of heaven left to prize. There is a sky, yes, blue-like, grey-like, alien-like, weighing downwards, pouring sweat at dusk, downwards, riveting all aground, downwards, yes, with only sidewards escapades. There, here, mechanical bullfrogs and cicadas grind away, and sometimes wounded cars cough by, pierced by assegais, and sometimes surfers emerge from the mouths of microwave ovens. And always, life continues like the sound of splintering glass. This hell, hemmed in, its forced geometry of concrete boils, spreads outwards, sidewards, in its rushes of sackcloth, of shack, of specification matchbox, to touch the stitchwork of hills, as near the docks the boss drives by in his Shepstone Benz, as his boys load Echwayo skull as cargo. Here, there, confined, where visions of heaven subsided long ago, with the arrival of sails, creaking under the hyperload of sparrows, here, there, in this maze of splintering glass, in this expanse that claims me, that claims us, in these infernal flame waves tanning my fate, our fate, I was lost there, smiling porcelain smiles and waving oxhide kites. Thank you. And at night, when the sun sets, behind Kwamashu and further back, past the thousands of hills, and the cattle are herded, and the children are rustled inside, and the mothers count them again, removing thorns, lice, birdshot with caring hand. And we feel alongside our shoulders, making sure that our head still weighs our neck down right through our spine, and the descending grey disappears, the shark fin, the boatyard, the Casper. We're left with only our fiercer loves and the sounds of hooks that we tear out from each other's hearts. And then later, this poetry took me around the way to Ethiopia, the Indian Ocean, and there's a long poem called Slave Trades, which was my revenge on the French poet Rimbaud, or Rimbaud, whatever you want to call him. And of course, it's also about emotions and love and politics and imperialism. And, here's a voice from there. Accept these offerings from a damned soul to your unselfish heart. As you became my slave and your hands remade the world I touched, your stare bewitched my night times, slipping in and out, a shadow in my many rooms. I conjured with my wand new flowers, new estates and caravans, traveling up and out to gather meteors, suns, and cosmic stars, and all those diamonds that hide behind the moon. Accept them, please, these offerings of a solitary, unhappy soul. I would be fit, given the ugly wounds I carry in my mind, for a colony of lepers, strutting around, holding the slices we have scratched from all our imperfections. You would be fit, given the kindness that irradiates your simple needs and eyes, to be the secret code of an erotic book, perhaps, playing with a swift abandon, with the grammar of the verbs of all desire. I would be fit to only be the author of that charmed book's errors, its blots and faulty spellings. Hey, as the relentless blue flame suns turn my skin to leather and my hands to rasps and my fingers into scalpels, accept the softest of all of my caresses, as my cotton silks and slender flannels, my perfumes and lathers have turned your calloused life to elegance and grace. Strike me with all the force of your pent-up affections. I would then use my hardened hide to strum the spleen of this Habeshi harp. You stand for me, harsher than ashen colors mixed with the red feathers of the morning's scrawny bird, a bird that croaks at me without a name outside the window and smile and jest. I would be too, red in my mind and darker than my psyche's urge for you, perhaps a shade of moss after the summer's rain, after the roar of crowds stoning a sedentary thief. But I cannot, because your obedience is final. Your obedience is total. It is bought. There's always hope. There's always hope. These evil times, autumn already, with the sun already bruised, ignored and hated by the new gods, unremembered by the old, shining on our forgotten cities, fog-lashed, crowd-blinded, unsuspecting of these last momentous hours, ridiculed by the tribes and bards, thinned out to bone, plagued, mosquitoed, as we sit waiting for the darker hours so we can go and follow the remaining random, muted stars. All is in flight. The paper birds we made, dabbed with paint, glued up with mulch from flour, flapped past and are gone. The monks stole past, clutched book, bent yellow gate, and page and we, cursed by each frostbite, damned by each psalm or poem, impure, gather the animals and search for the other pasture. The next spring, some promise of flint, of porridge. All is in flight. Left is the sound of nature's justice, the eternal jaws of the eternal chattering of ants. There was a cart, more of a boat inside a dream than cart, that always powered on, despite mist or cold, towards the brilliant, fanciful city of our hope. The city which was unhaunted by the sights of all those cut, which was without the tear, the soaked bread, the shrill sound of a shovel against a stone, metal on stone. The city which had our household, its wooden rafters fragrant still from the memory of root, its plants and horse, its air and kin, interplaying alongside the thresher who insisted she loved her harvest, where each stone marked the pathway of a dream. I have built the cart, twine and sackcloth, rounded wheel inside my soul. I'm waiting for the autumn's breeze, flap on a wing and song and surge to my untraded home and lands. Back to Ethiopia, back from all those worlds to Durban. When the cloud cover passes over this 5-rand town, searching for respite from the wind that goads it past the moon, and the tarmac worn from the day's subtropical chore, and it yearns for the land crabs and frogs to return, I know that this is the place where language must have died, where memory banks declare certainties in undigested drones or years and tremulous voices, heavenly choirs, briars, pyres, scraps. Stop that shit. Collect copper wires. Dear keeper, I'm a communist because I recall crabbed songs, fog rain. I keep the calendar on a green page. Hello, Mr. Grief. Here comes my goofy sorrow. Hello, Mr. Poet. Grief here. Have you some tear for me to borrow? There is an open fire where the trail ended and the spoor calcified, where some mongrel snout prowls its longings past some unwanted spume in the 4.99 plus 1 cent place, where the tongue used to twitch lash in time constrictions. Hello, Mr. Grief. Here comes your tear to borrow. Hello, Mr. Poet. Grief here. At what interest does I liquid sorrow? Hey, I'm a communist. And keep the calendar on a green page, seated here, naked in the chemical compounds of this damp afternoon that masticates the wings of tiny predatory birds, listening to the chirping of ozone granules behind the dark beards of cloud. I try to clone the nanoparticles of feeling on this war-torn sitar. Oh, the roads we have built, boys, or the droughts we have mitigated, or the books we have almost balanced, boys. One came back, hid the gun and waited. Another wandered the streets, disco scatter, talking to himself. Another robbed a bank and then another bank. Another wandered the countryside, cracked heart, half-dead torso. The rest was moved by wheelbarrow, cursing. Another found the gun, the first one hid. Another drowned, searching for a tap. The third paid for the posh coffin of teak. The fourth turned worm and hired out the wheelbarrow to taxi. The one who scatter talked, pushed it, and the new one with the gun took it. So we crawled through the thicket, listening to the trucks delivering all of us of our basest needs. Oh, the roads we have built, boys. The books we have almost balanced, boys. Hello, Mr. Poet. Here's sorrow. Oh, you're very welcome, Mr. Grief. Tomorrow has been mortgaged. You are stunningly free to borrow. Oh, boys, the droughts, boys, and the trains, and how the gravy stains. And of course, we all know from Johnny Diani to Comandante Hani, an era ends. Since then, it's money, money, money. The chaos calls me. Can I sing? Where do I find the pitch to say and improvise my sting? The mic is trembling, Diani, honey, here we go. Here is the sting, the tabla, drum, the cello, guide me in. Privatize the sun, copyright the clouds, before the others come, those others, to steal our rainbows. From Johnny Diani and Comandante Hani, an era ends. Since then it's money, money, money. And just a sample from the Insurrections ensemble, of which you're going to hear a lot on Thursday. It's all about revolt, nature. Nature is giving us a clap. People are giving us a clap and we're still asleep. And this is called the 8th insurrection of, believe it or not, the cow. I stabbed the fetus with these. I used to stab the rain with these. How did you dare grow this inside my womb? Exchanged for the hyena to in-laws with sharp knives. Cut at the dawn by gutters whose water ran with slime. My girl was roasted where maggots sing the street. Where maggots serenade the moon, my dear, I stabbed the rain with these. My white patch takes to flight, my dear. Unala was my name. Inala was my regiment. I was to a Makoti once, the Twebelezela one. What shines, my dear? Only stars tonight. Like bats, they drop to me. I stabbed the rain with these. You hear me bellow, dear, you're wrong. I ululate. Where you have seen fine rivers and valleys full of cud have leaked and scorched, my dear. The pathways to the dead are faint to see. Broken the pen, my dear. Run flat the kraal. Cried by the stacks of fillet deer. Poisoned the fields. Snapped at the yoke. Refused the branding iron. Sucked up my teats and ate. I stabbed with these. I used to stab the rain with these. I promised I wouldn't do this one, but I was convinced. Outside, lots of pressure. Marikana. The digital images fold as the TV screens tires. The cops, rifles in cabinet, past their third beer, are edging towards bed. The night is quiet as the smelter has been closed. The only music is of the wind on razor wire. The ears are too shut to hear the ancestral thuds on goat skin. Humanity has somehow died in Marikana. Who said what to whom remains a detailed trifle. The fury of the day has to congeal. The blood has to congeal. I reverse the footage, bringing the miners back to life. In vain, the footage surges back, and the first bullet reappears, and the next, and the next, and the next. And I reverse the footage. In vain, again and again, in vain. The image of the man in the green shroud endures. Who wove the blanket, and what was his name? There are no subtitles under the clump of bodies, no names stapled on their unformed skull. A mist of ignorance also endures, a winter fog woven into the fabric of the kill. The loom endures too. The weaver is asleep. The land of the high winds will receive the man naked. The earth will eat the stitch back to a thread. What will remain is the image, and I in vain, reversing him back to life, to lead the hill to song in vain. The footage surges back, another Pondo, another Uza hill, another Wonder hill. The shooting quietens, another ant hill. My love, did I not gift you a necklace with a wondrous bird, pure royal platinum, to mark our bond? Was it not the work of the most reckless angel of craft and ingenuity? Was it not pretty? Didn't the bird have an enticing beak of orange with green tint? Throw it away quickly tonight. It will turn nasty and gouge a shaft into your slender neck. And it will hurt because our metals are the hardest. Gold, pig iron, manganese, yes, platinum, humanity. Kasama died in Marikana. What is that Umzimu staring back at us tonight? Darken the mirrors, switch off the moon, asphalt the lakes. At dawn, the driveway to the master's mansion is aflame with flower, so radiant from the superphosphates of bone, of surplus oxygen and cash. Such flames, such a raw sun, such mourning by the shacks that squat in sulphur's bracken and await for the storm, the torrent, the lava of restitution, the avenger spirits that blunt the helicopter blades in vain. These also endure. The game and trout fishing of their elective chores, the auctions of diamond art and share, the prize stallions of their dreams, the supple fingers fingering oriental skins, and the silver crystals counting the scalps of politicians in their vault. The meerkat paces through the scent of blood. I want it to pace through the scent of blood. She's the mascot, the living totem of the mine's deep rock, the one who guards the clans from the night's devil. She's there as the restless ghosts of ancestors by the rock face, feeding her sinew and pap, goading her on, the women who have loved the dead alive, the homesteads that have earned their sweat and glands, impassive nature that has heard their songs, the miners of our daily wealth that still defy the harsh landscape of new furies. The meerkat endures. Torn certainties of class endure. The weaver also endures there. Green blankets of our shrouded dreams. Humanity has died in Marikana. The strike is over. The dead must return to work. Thank you. So, since John Idiani and Commandante Hani, an era ends. Since then it's... Thank you.